mean, to use your house analogy, you don't want to innovate with the user experience of using the stairs, do you? So the step you want the
Yeah.
stairs to be completely predictable and an interchangeable user experience with every other stair that
Yes.
everyone is going to go up and down. So
Yes.
let's not get funky with the stairs. Yeah, I hear
Yeah.
you very loudly on that. So um, there's a couple of things I wanted to pick out from the conversation so far. So you've mentioned sustainability, and I've not just mentioned it was yeah I thought a very clear direction in the talk that you recently gave in London, and it wasn't just a direction of travel. I could see that there are concrete steps being taken within the Umbraco program to support that, and I guess to help enterprises make better decisions about the sustainability of their web state. It'd be great if you could just give the listeners a view on how you've approached that, what some of the features are, maybe where you see it going.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's there's a few different parts to that. The first one is obviously how do we make sure Umbraco runs as effectively as possible. So, well, like when you have an Umbraco that you can run as many visitors on it as possible before you need to scale it up, or maybe you can even run it on a smaller instance somewhere and save some CO2 or something like this. And that's totally on us. And we do our very best on that. And I think we're actually doing pretty well if you compare to the competition on that. I mean, to be honest again, and to put to put credit where credit is due, a lot of that comes from being on .NET and being on the newest version of .NET. Because like if you look at .NET 8 and .NET 9 or .NET 7 and .NET 8, like from most of the major versions of .NET, you get an additional 10% performance or something like that. And you get that for free when you're working with Umbraco, right? We use the newest .NET version. So if you use the newest Umbraco version, then you also do that, and then you get extra performance for free. So for sure, go with the newest version if you can, because you just get better performance. And in this scenario, performance is almost always equal to less or better sustainability. I mean, less carbon emission, right? Because it's at the end of the day, it's less servers doing work, meaning less power being needed, meaning less, coal being burned somewhere,
Yeah.
right? So that's the one thing. Then the other thing is actually all of the code that you write, all of the code that is specific to your project. And I mean, in real life, that is probably the majority of where the emissions come from. You can't spend hours and hours and hours optimizing one algorithm like we can, because that's kind of what we do, right? And if you're building a project, you probably can't, and it's probably not worth it either, because there's time spent on you building it, and servers, running all of your build processes and stuff, and like it might not even make sense to do it for you. But that means that there is a lot of code in your end. And as I said, like as with accessibility, if you do it right from the beginning, it's not a lot of extra work to do it, and to get it right. You can make pretty significant changes by doing things right. So our approach to that is really twofold. One is to help people understand how they're doing today. So like if you use our hosting platform in Umbraco Cloud, you can go into a dashboard, and then you can actually see for each of your environments. So like on your production environment and your staging environment and all of your projects and all of this stuff, like you can see per kind of project that is running somewhere in the cloud, how much CO2 is being emitted from the compute that is put into running that project. And you see that on a monthly basis, so you can kind of compare how was this month compared to last month. And this is Black Friday, it was in November, so maybe there's more in November. Like there's all that stuff. But I mean, the point is, the first step is actually to let people see how they're doing, so they can see how's November compared to last November, or how is today compared to yesterday. We did a big change, we did a big rebrand or something like this. Did it make it worse, or did it make it better? Did it not make any difference? And I mean, just telling people how they're doing or showing people how they're doing, I think is a very good first step. Then we've been working on, actually together with people from our community, experts in the community, on building like a set of best practices for how you can build sustainable on Umbraco. So like, what's the things you should think about when you're, using the Umbraco templating, or when you're using, yeah, whatever, like the setups that you're using. What are the things that you should be thinking about? So trying to educate people with that, and then trying to show people how they're doing. I think those are the two main steps that we do. And we're of course thinking about like, how can we make it, maybe combine some of this to start to do some, some static code analysis in our end, and look at what code people are actually putting on our platform, and seeing how that performs over time. And I think there's plenty of the stuff that we would like to look into. But the problem is today that a lot of this would be something you would pass to like an AI algorithm somewhere, or like a large language models. And I mean, the kind of hidden story about AI is how terrible it is
Yeah.
from a sustainability standpoint. So it's that balance that we need to try to fit. Like, we don't want to, do the opposite of what we're trying to do, just to, seem like we're doing something. Like, we want to actually do what's best in the big picture, right? So that's kind of the two approaches, like showing people where they are, what they're doing today, and showing them how they can be building something better. And then on our part, like building the foundation so it runs as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, that came across really strongly in the talk, Philip. There was another thing that I wanted to talk to you about, which is around I guess the editor experience, and I guess specifically marketers and content developers that are, I guess, trying to understand their audiences better. They are trying to learn and adapt, optimize, to use the word in the industry, to optimize their content so that they are, providing better services and, driving better growth to their brands. And I guess the priority for a lot of those practitioners is to be able to experiment with their content, to be able to hypothesize and test, you know, I guess throw away the stuff that doesn't work and then build in the stuff that does, and kind of amplify
Yep.
it. And to be successful in that, that's about speed, and it's about quantity of iteration. So the more tests you run on your content, the more that you will learn, and the better it will be. So it's just a kind of a speed and quantity dynamic. But I guess one of the drag factors, one of the inertias that stops, or not stops, but slows that process, is the cost of realizing an opportunity. So, for example, if you have a hypothesis about your user's behavior and you want to test that so that you can better understand, and that might be a UX change that you're going to split test in your CMS environment, for example. You're going to see how the control is going to perform against the variant. How long does it take you to implement that? What's it going to cost you? Do you have to? Is that something that you can achieve within your own resources? Does that take a non-technical editor a couple of hours to achieve, or does it take a multidisciplinary team of developers, UX, QA, PM, content, analytics, all working together to iterate a change which might actually cost thousands of euros, thousands of dollars, and be 3 weeks, in the making. So it'd be really good to hear your view on that. How do we reduce the opportunity cost of learning about user behavior on a system?
Yeah. We have we have a product in Umbraco that's called Umbraco Engage. We really like the word engage more than optimize, because it like optimize kind of sounds a little bit evil, right? Like it sounds like you're trying to
Yeah,
to yeah, to get your users to do something that they don't want to do.
yeah,
But I really like the word engage, right? Like we want to engage our users and we want to engage them as much as we can, as best as we can. And yeah, I totally agree with all of your points that personalization, A/B tests, all of this stuff should be easy. And what we've been seeing is a lot of times that it's not, and that it's hard. Recently we launched, as I said, Umbraco Engage it's a paid product, to be completely transparent about that as well. But it's relatively cheap if you look to our competition again. I think we start out at I mean a few hundred pounds a month or something. So it's definitely attainable for most enterprises. Um, the point is, we've really been trying to look at it from the bigger picture and say, like, as an editor, what is it that I want to do? How do we help you do just that? And trying to maybe even limit the scope of what it is, so that it's simple to work with. So basically in Umbraco, like, you can have multiple like language versions of a page, like you have a Danish version and a British version and a whatever French version, and kind of like that, you build up different personas, and then you have a return visitor persona that you can build content for, and then you have somebody who bought something last time, or somebody who didn't buy something last time, or you can even build personas based on somebody who visits on a Tuesday, or somebody who visits. I mean, you can build out your own, also in code, like your own algorithm. So it could be somebody who visits on a Tuesday where it's rainy, where it's you can build all of that stuff. The point is, you don't need to be a developer you need to be a developer if you want to do weird stuff like that. But all of the you know the simple stuff is just point and click your way to personas, and then start building content for them. And like, if you do a little bit of googling as well, you can find Umbraco Engage, and there's some pretty brilliant tutorials out there on how to use it. And I think they basically go through the entire product in like less than an hour, in everything that it does, where it's content variations, but it's also, as you said, like A/B tests, like how does the blue button do compared to the red button, or to the big button or the small button, or like this text on the button or that text on the button, and like doing control groups, doing all of this stuff, and figuring out that this is actually the scenario that converts the best. And conversion can be anything. Like, conversion can be putting something in your basket and checking out, but it could also just be spending enough time on this page so we think that you actually read it, or downloading this PDF, or signing up for a newsletter, or anything like this. And that's kind of what we want to do. So none of this is new. Like, there was products doing this years ago in many of the platforms. So our approach is very much be to, like, how can we simplify this so you get all of the powers that you need, but it doesn't require you to have a master's degree in personalization to actually be able to do it. Like, you shouldn't be a developer. You should just be a content editor with 5 minutes of training, and then you're good to go. And that's actually what we're seeing. Like, we've um, when we were talking to customers of this product, like, I was talking to a UK based customer who said that they'd been using one of our competitors' product for this before, and he was actually on their marketing list, and like, he was a promoter of their product. And after he saw our product, he was just blown away by how he could actually do anything that he wanted still, but it was just so much easier to do, and at a fraction of the cost, right? So I think that really sold it to me, if that was needed. But I mean, I really understood where he was coming from, and that really resonated with me. Like, that's how it's supposed to be. It shouldn't be expensive. It shouldn't be complicated. It should just be something that you do so you can engage your users more. Right?
absolutely. That's really interesting. Um, you mentioned this word a couple of times, and I'd just like to focus on this. Let's talk about headless. So, so it's used a lot. It's another one of those words. It's a bit like composable, isn't it? And headless is often used in a conversation about composable architectures. Um, Take me through your understanding of headless, why it's come about, what it's supposed to do, what problem does it solve, and I'd really like to hear your evaluation of how effective it can be as a technique.
So if I can start with the end, I think it can be a real game changer. Like it can be like the enabler of all the other things. The thing that really, makes your setup work. But it's crazy to think that. I mean, I started doing headless websites 10 years ago when I was on the agency side, right? Like it's really not new to build headless, and it still feels like we get RFPs or like proposals all the time where people use headlessly seemingly without knowing what it is. And that's just crazy how much hype that word contains and how much you know misunderstandings are in that. I think if you look at it from just the technical perspective, the point is we want to decouple the head, so like the actual part that is shown to the user, so like the website part of the website, uh, we want to decouple that from the actual services or like software that's used to maintain it. And the way we do that is that um, instead of having the CMS, if you want to take that approach, like build the views out with some templating and some data and all of this stuff like in the CMS and then serving a full website to the user, the CMS effectively just serves the data model. So like what's the data and properties that's on this page? That's the only thing the CMS would then serve to some other service. So like a decoupled service that then puts that into some view somewhere with some HTML, and that can be anything in the headless setup, right? Like that's one of the powers that your front end engineers don't need to learn about what CMS you do because they can just use it headlessly and use it with React or with Vue or with whatever framework they come up with. They can use it without a framework. They can use it, in Node. They can use it anywhere they want. Like that's the kind of the purpose is that you can decouple the view, and then you can yeah, so you're free to use whatever tech stack you want on the rendering part. So like if you're just looking at like headless and headless CMS, that's kind of what that means. But I mean, in the composable setup, as you said, like it only makes sense that the sources talk to each other headlessly. And here, headlessly is a little bit of a misused word, really, because there is no head on an ERP, or like it's
Yeah.
not really supposed to serve data to a user, right? It's like so. But the point is, like, we use the same metaphor because it also just sends over the data to whoever needs to do it and nothing else, and just like the raw data model. And that means that you can use it with anything. So like headless is definitely an enabler for composable, but depending on where you want your like the rendering of your view to be, you don't need to have your CMS be headless to build a beautiful website. Like you can render it in the CMS like we've done for 20 years, and that continues to work. And if that's how you prefer to work, you can. But there is a lot of places where, as I said, like you have front end engineers that build beautiful websites, fantastic user experiences, and they want all the flexibility, and they don't care what IT chose for as a system to do content management. Like they shouldn't maybe care about that. So I think that's kind of the power of it. What we do see a lot that is that people really don't understand what it is, and they just put it in an RFP somewhere, and they say it needs to be headless, and then you know yeah, it doesn't really add anything. It just adds a little bit of complexity because of instead of running one server that does everything, they need to run one server for the CMS and then another server to do the rendering. So like they effectively just end up with two server bills and twice the carbon emission and
Yeah.
twice the complexity, and like in a lot of setups it doesn't make any sense. But there's definitely use cases where it does make sense. As soon as you start to have multiple sources, as I said, it probably is a good call. And I mean, if you want to enable your front end engineers and you think that's worth the extra added complexity, I think it's definitely worth it, or it can be worth it.
So, and I think that's a message of true wisdom coming out there. That we don't get drawn into the hype of the word and the industry trends, but we look at what problem we're seeking to solve, and we make a clear-eyed decision based on that. I mean, it's like you say, we've seen some great implementations, but you're right. You can be just adding an additional layer, unnecessary layer on top of what is already a perfectly performant system.
I think one thing we've seen though in the industry in the last couple of years that is that none of the CMSs out there are not headless. Like none of them, yeah, none of them are not headless.
Yes.
So like all of them have headless capabilities in some form of or way. Like in the old days in the Gartner and Forrester analysis, like there used to be like a category for like classic CMSs, and then they had headless CMSs, and then they kind of had the hybrid CMSs, and they've effectively dropped the classic category because all of the classic ones are also hybrid now. Like so like all of them have at least headless capabilities, and then it's more a matter of like if you go for the hybrid ones, you also get like the capability to do the rendering in the CMS. So it's more a matter of like, do you want all, or do you just want a subset that's only headless, right?
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about you. I mean, we haven't really spoken about you. What does your world look like, Philip? What is your role within the Umbraco community? How does that look? It'd be lovely to understand a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so as you said in the beginning, I'm the CTO, so I'm the Chief Technology Officer, and that means that in Umbraco I run product and engineering. So I have a team of five head offs. So I have a head of cloud and a head of CMS and etc. And they report to me. And the six of us together, we kind of run the product and engineering side of Umbraco. So like all of our products and all of the commercial products and the free products and the open source products and all of this, like we kind of look at the bigger picture and try to make, what's the roadmap, what's the direction for everything. So I mean, I've been fortunate enough to hire some smart people, so my job is pretty easy, right? Like I go to work and I let them make all the decisions, and that's easy.
Amen to that. So,
I go on podcasts, so that's my job apparently.
oh, brilliant. So, um, how do you divide your time? How much of your focus is working, for example, into the Umbraco community and helping to shape the direction of travel there? How much of it is working more into the kind of, more tightly governed areas that are specified within Umbraco, and how much of it is actually working with customers to understand their needs and help shape solutions?
Yeah, good questions. So I think so. We have a we call it a developer relations team inside of Umbraco that works kind of with the community, and they run our MVP program, and they run meetups all over the world, and organize the festivals and the conferences and all of this stuff. So there's a pretty big there's a pretty sizable investment for us into the community. Um, it's not that much of my time though specifically. There's a great team of international people working on that all over the world. Um, I spend, I go to all of the partner events. I do spend quite a lot of time with partners, and I really enjoy that. As you said in the beginning, the partners like the Moriyamas. There's a few hundred of them. I think there's a few hundred of them just in the UK, but there's a lot of them all over the world, and they build excellent solutions, and that means that a lot of times the the contact to the actual client or the customer is with the partner and not with us directly. There's some enterprises that prefer to deal with us directly, and of course we were happy to do that. We have a dedicated sales team for that as well, so we can help build custom enterprise solutions for customers. But we don't do any implementation in Umbraco, so we don't ever build projects for customers. Like we build the platform, we build the product, we build the foundation, and then we let either enterprises do their own development, or we help customers find a partner to build the project for them. And that's very much by design. Like we are really good at building a product, but we are not absolutely not experts in using our own product. That's where all the partners come in, right? And that means that our success really depends on the partners. So that's it's mission critical for us to have a good relationship to our partners, and to have our partners, you know, that we listen to our partners, and that they feel heard, and that we actually, react to what they do. Like, it's not just something we pretend to do, but it's, at the end of the day, if we don't do what they tell us to do or what they think is important, then we won't be successful, because they'll just use something else instead, right? So um, that's very much how the business model is working for Umbraco. So I spent quite a lot of time with partners talking about product. I mean, when I go to events like the one where we met a few months ago, like, that's my main focus. I do a little bit of talking, and the majority of the day I spend, talking one on one with customers, asking about, like, what's one thing you would like us to change, or like, what's one pain point that you have that we can help you do, or like, what should we not change for anything, or like, and that's the kind of questions that I feed on, that I like to ask. And of course, we're not going to change everything for one customer, but when we start to see, like, a picture, like a pattern emerge from the conversations that we have, that's kind of where we start to think about, okay, maybe there's something here.
And I think that's an interesting follow-on question, which is currently, what are you hearing from customers? What are their pain points? Oh,
I think
nothing too specific. Obviously, I know you can't talk about individual
no,
customers. I
no.
wouldn't want you to do that. But what trends are you observing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think, as I was referring to earlier, I think, like, that composable regret thing is something that we're starting to hear. Like, people, uh, you know, bought into a sales pitch a few years ago on composable, and they liked all of the ideas, and they invested in it, and now they have a lot of headaches, because, maybe they didn't get it all right.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, I mean, I'm not trying to blame anybody. Like, it is very difficult to do right. And it's, I mean, people probably not don't all agree on what is the right way to do it, but I think, like, that is something that we're hearing, and that's obviously, as I said, that's kind of why we're trying to look into that space and see, like, is there something here we can try to help our partners and our customers achieve, so they can get, like, all the benefits without all of the regrets. So that's definitely one big thing. Uh, as for us, specifically, I think the Engage product is getting a lot of traction. People are pretty excited about that. It was a product that came out of the community, so it was actually an acquisition that we did. Somebody built a product that was specifically built for Umbraco and only for Umbraco. So, like, it was a perfect fit for us to eventually acquire it, and they kind of, showed us that there was a demand for this, and that people wanted to use it. So we're really happy about that, and the reception from all of the partners have been really, really good. Like, people are much more comfortable investing in something when it's an Umbraco product than when it's, like, some small company building an add-on to Umbraco, right? So like, there's a lot of more trust when it's a product that's from us, and I think everybody wins from that. So that's also definitely something that I've been hearing a lot. Yeah, I think that's probably
Yeah.
the headlines right now. Then, I mean, then I get that question about AI a lot, and I
Yeah.
need to talk about that. And I mean, I think I think probably in the next year, or something like this, I think we will start to see something. Maybe we as Umbraco will build, like an official add-on to Umbraco, so we don't put it in the foundation, but there is something that you can pick that is from us as well. Um, but there's a lot of complexity in that as well. Like, then what large language model do you want to do, and should we be hosting that for you, and what about data privacy, and, like, blah 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 blah, blah. There's tons of complexity here that until that kind of settles and people agree on what it means, and we actually see some real trust in the vendors out there, I think it's good for us to stay out. I think it's pretty interesting to see how, you know, how much we trust companies with data in the AI realm, uh, with without really
Yeah.
any proof of what they actually do. Some of them, you know, if you look at OpenAI, like if you give them an extra $5 a month, then they get you your then they stay all they don't train on your data, and we have nothing but their word for that. Like we have
Yeah.
no idea if that's actually true. Like there's no way to test it. There's no way to show it. Like does the data leave the EU if you're part of the EU and GDPR like applies to you? Like there's so many questions out there that are unanswered, and I think at least for us that's also one of the reasons why we want to. I think in the beginning, if we ship such a product, it's going to be kind of a bring your own license
Yeah.
kind of thing where you have to bring your own key, because then it's on you to figure out what the compliance needs you want, and if you want to host your own model and do that, you can, and if you want to, you know, buy into OpenAI or anything on Azure or whatever, like you can do that.
And I think that's really important for large brands and enterprises to understand,
Yeah,
isn't it? And again, it goes back to that question of as a technology platform, you know, what do you bake in, and what do you apply strong governance to, and then where do you then, you know, open things up for people to be freer, or maybe to bring their own solutions. And I guess the balance to be achieved here is to make sure that, you know, primarily if you are an enterprise making an investment decision on a CMS system that might be, you might be a, you know, a multi-million dollar or euro investment, and might take you, you know, across a 3 to 5 year, initial lifetime, or, you know, or window, you need to be really kind of confident in the decision that you're taking, don't you? Because that's kind
yeah,
that's that's kind of a bad one to get wrong, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Um, and I think, just wrapping it up now, I guess the final question to ask is how can we help enterprises make better decisions about the CMS system that they choose? You know, if there's kind of one word of guidance, or one kind of point of guidance that you could offer, you know, what would that be?
I mean, other than the obvious one that you should always choose Umbraco. Uh, no. I mean, joking aside, like choose what's right for you. Think about what the things that I've been talking about. Like think about predictability. Think about security. Think about cost. Uh, and go for something that, you know, cares about humans and like the human element to this, as like bridging back to more or less where we started. Like building something like this for enterprises, it's all about the humans, right? Like it's about the end users that actually use your estates, and then it's about all of your people, like the people you employ to make that experience. All the content editors, the marketeers, the product people, all of that. Like focus on them. Choose something that where a user experience is like the center of everything. You want something where IT is happy because, you know, all the compliance stuff is taken care of, and they get all of their separation of concern and all of the stuff that we talked about. But like you want something that is human centered. You want something where you want your editors to feel good about working in it. They should be happy. They should feel productive. They should feel like, you know, they should feel empowered when they work with stuff. They shouldn't be frustrated about stuff being slow or stuff being unflexible and all of this stuff. Like, and that's probably what I would choose from. That's what I would you know, that's what I would be building if it wasn't there.
Marvelous. Um, Philip, thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. It's been really, really inspirational to hear you talk about the journey with Umbraco, and how you see that fitting into your clients, technology spaces. Um, Obviously, would love to invite you back onto the podcast in a year's time to see, because I think there'll be plenty will have happened by then, and it'll be interesting to compare and contrast. But yeah, let's see how your diary is doing in a year's time. You'd be very welcome. Um, But
Absolutely.
we're going to wrap up now. So thank you once again. So you've been listening to Filip Bech-Larsen, the CTO for Umbraco. I've been your host, Julian Tedstone, Managing Director for Coherence. This podcast is the Digital Transformation Survivors podcast, brought to you in association with Moriyama, who are our partners in the Cohesus Group and specialists in Umbraco. And it's been our delight to spend time with you this morning. Thank you very much.